First of all, for those of you who don't know about the Encore Network, our mission is to champion the civic, social, and economic contributions of people 50 plus. What we do is create community, stimulate learning, inspire action, and that's part of what we're wanting to do today for sure, and remove barriers and advance opportunities. So a couple of things to start. Please mute yourself. Seems like everybody is there, but for a large number of people, we want to make sure you're muted, and we'll use the chat for questions and comments. And we will send a recording, slides, and resources in a follow-up email. So be aware of that. My name's Jim McGinley, and my role with the Encore Network includes involvement with our Program and Engagement Committee, as well as I co-lead with Clint Wilkins, our Intergenerational Affinity Group, which is one of a number of our affinity groups within the Encore Network. The Intergenerational Affinity Group is a self-driven forum composed of network members dedicated to linking the generations to create a better future for all. And we're excited to bring this program to you today. And it's so appropriate that we're meeting with the Global Intergenerational Week coming up shortly. Today, our focus is on the topic of creating intergenerational allies to combat ageism. Ageist actions and attitudes happen to people of all ages, not just older adults. Young people, mid-career workers, and others are susceptible to undeserved limits based solely on their age. And all who are lucky to live long enough will experience the versions of ageism that are specific to people over 50. But how do we connect our experience across generations to build a shared understanding about what we can do together to make a difference? That's the topic for this program. And that's the broad goal of Generations Over Dinner, a global initiative designed to create meaningful multi-generational experiences and conversations. In this session, we'll learn how Timber Ridge at Talus Senior Living Community outside of Seattle has used this initiative to connect people from ages 10 to 95 and how it has benefited their community. We'll then hear from the founder of Generations Over Dinner, Michael Hebb, about how the program works elsewhere and about other initiatives he leads. Finally, we'll talk about members and friends of the Encore, how members and friends of the Encore Network can adopt this approach to building alliances that can remove barriers and advance opportunities for people of all ages. We'll offer a guide for holding intergenerational conversations that focus specifically on beliefs about aging and how we can make change by working together. We'll look for your ideas and feedback on how we can apply what we learned today to our own action. One other context-setting thought is the relationship with Generations Over Dinner started a few years ago when Co-Generate introduced us to Chip Conley, who had partnered with Michael Hebb to launch the program. The Encore Network agreed to become a partner, and our Intergenerational Affinity Group conducted a few pilots, including with Timber Ridge. Co-Generate introduced me to Timber Ridge as they wanted to become more involved with younger generations. This led to a session with Michael Hebb and myself with about 75 of Timber Ridge's independent living residents, explaining the importance of intergenerational relationships in aging and the role of Generations Over Dinner as a way for them to start. So we'll begin today with Carol Godding, president of the Timber Ridge Resident Council. She's retired from the Boeing Company, where she worked for 25 years in various IT and HR roles. She's also worked in leadership roles with several nonprofits. And joining Carol is Diane Mortensen, Timber Ridge Director of Community Life Services, who manages a wide variety of education, recreation, health, and social activities, including Generations Over Dinner. After that, we'll hear from Michael Hebb, and he's an author and speaker who has led other global movements, including Death Over Dinner and Drugs Over Dinner. He'll share ways that Generations Over Dinner has been implemented to give us some ideas to consider, as well as other initiatives he's leading. One is he's currently working with Van Jones of CNN and the Aspen Institute on an important initiative. Then we'll describe the checklist you can use and leave time to hear from you on how we can implement the program locally. So let's get started. I'll turn it over to you, Carol and Diane.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. Can everybody see our slides?
Yes, we can see them.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you for having us. I'm Diane Mortensen. I'm the Director of Life Services here at Timber Ridge at Talus.
I'm Carol Godding. As introduced before, I'm the new president of the Resident Council here at Timber Ridge.
And Timber Ridge at Talus is a continuing care retirement community, and we are in Issaquah, Washington. We sit at the base of Cougar Mountain. You can see our beautiful views of the mountains and the landscape here at Timber Ridge. And we have approximately 500 residents, most of which are independent living residents. In order to be part of our health center, which is called Briarwood, you have to be a independent living resident here first. And so then our health center consists of assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. And we have approximately 250 employees that consist of these departments: administration, environmental services, which is our janitorial and housekeeping, food and beverage, life services, which is activities, programs, fitness and transportation, marketing, and plant maintenance operations. So Generations Over Dinner was introduced, as Jim said, to us at one of our monthly lectures here at Timber Ridge when Michael Hebb came to introduce his programs. And we were very interested in Generations Over Dinner after hearing it, and got together with some of our residents, Carol, myself, Tom Quigley, to think about offering this here to Timber Ridge and other guests. And as a result, we held our first one. As you can see, we've got a large performance hall, and we were striving to get about 100 guests, with the split being about 40 of our residents and 60 guests, so that we had a nice range of generations. You can see that this great slide here where they're pointing to their generations. So the guests really got involved and learned a lot about the different generations. And Carol will talk about this later, but that's Carol and Evie, one of our guest MCs that hosted with Carol as well. And at the beginning for our first one, we had a little bit of a challenge getting different younger people. And so for the other ones we did a bigger, broader outreach to get more of a variety. And so this is some of the outreach and promotion we did. We are lucky enough to be right next to a middle school. Cougar Mountain Middle School was built, I think it's been open for only about 3 school years right now, and our residents got to see it be built from the ground up. And so they anticipated this wonderful partnership quite a while ago. So we worked with their PTSA and the teachers to spread the word with the students. City of Issaquah has a youth advisory board we reached out to. Local Issaquah service organizations spread the word: the Kiwanis, the Rotary Club, Lions Club, and others. And then we even had some elected officials that were very interested. State Representative Lisa Callahan even sat on our committee and helped outreach with all of her constituents, which was a huge help. And she also attended some of our dinners. And the Talus, we sit in the Talus neighborhood here that has probably another 3,000 residents that live up here. And so we were in their newsletter and email blasts in order to share the invitation. And this is an example of one of our invitations. It was a digital copy, so it was emailed and put out so guests could just click on the scan to register their information. We required them to put their ages, so we knew the variety of the guests we were getting. And we even asked them for dietary restrictions so that we were sure to cover what they needed at the dinner. And now Carol's going to talk about what the nuts and bolts of the topics are for the conversations.
Okay, thanks, Diane. So how does this work? Once you figure out you're going to do it, what are the next steps? I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on all of that. The first thing we do, the design team chooses a script from those that are provided by the Generations Over Dinner organization. And thanks to Michael for these great scripts. They really are terrific. We think these scripts are the secret sauce, to use Michael's own words. And they provide everything you need once you sit down to dinner. There are 3 main topics: purpose, love and relationships, and the future. And each topic has 3 scripts below that to choose from. And once you choose one, these are meant to be read aloud at the table by the table host. And I'll talk more about that whole process in a minute. So these are the 9 scripts that are available, the 9 topics, and the ones in bold are the 4 that we've chosen. We've done 4 of these now, and we really like doing this. Each of them was really interesting, and the discussions went really well. We started with wisdom and vitality, which is under the purpose script. And then as you can see, the highlighted ones, the bolded ones, and their dates when we did the rest. I'm going to show you now 3 slides that are an example of one of the scripts. You begin right off the bat with getting into an intergenerational mindset. And everyone around the table shares something about a generational ancestor. And then we move into the actual questions. Let's go to the next one. The actual questions, and there's 5 or 6 or 7 questions in each one of these scripts. You can see how they focus on the topic at hand. This one is about the planet. This one was right around Earth Day. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, after you've gone through those questions, you appreciate what everyone has said. And by this time, an hour or an hour and a half into it, you actually know the people at your table, which isn't the case when you start. So let me talk a little bit about how we found these participants. Our target age range was 14 to 95. We had the higher end taken care of, for sure. And we knew we needed a mix of age groups at each table. We have 7 or 8 guests at each table. And in fact, a few times we actually had 4 generations at one table. It was real easy to find the Timber Ridge residents who were interested. It fills up very quickly, that part of it. But it's a little bit harder to find people who are the other 65 ages that we wanted to get. So Diane talked a little about how she went about doing that. In total, over our 4 events, we've had 275 different people attend, but we've had 400 people. So you can see that we have a lot of people who want to come back again and again, which is wonderful. We try not to put family members at the same table, and that works well. That worked well about 98% of the time. A couple of times it didn't, but it was due to language barriers and not age. We were pleasantly surprised by how well the young kids did, sitting with adults and talking with people they'd never even met before. And the same thing goes for the older adults. They did really well too. We found, as has always been claimed by Generations Over Dinner, that there's just something about sitting down for dinner and conversation that works magic. So Diane and I were the co-MCs for the first 2 events we had in 2023. And we briefly covered the purpose and history of the event and all that. And then we turned it over to a table host to direct the conversation during the dinner. For the first 2 events, we decided to go for our 2 events in 2024, the 3rd and 4th events, we thought we would go intergenerational. And so we had a student co-MC with me. The first one was featured in the picture on our earlier slide. That's Eve Lee. She's an 8th grader from the school next door. And she did great. She was very articulate. She created her own script about why she was interested in these events and how they made a difference to her in her school and also in her family. And her family wasn't here. It was just Eve. So that was pretty interesting to hear about. The second time, which was November of last year, we had a 10-year-old who's actually below our target age range. But this kid, I know him. His grandmother lives down the hall from me. He is charismatic beyond his years, and he was absolutely a hoot. Everybody just loved Elliot, and he keeps calling me and asking me when we're doing it again. So we'll see how that goes. At 2 of the events, we asked the tables to select their own host. Now that person is responsible for keeping the conversation moving and making sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. We had them select their own host, and it worked pretty well. It kind of depended on the table. In several cases, they actually picked a junior high school age kid to be the table host. And that worked well, unless they had some of the Timber Ridge residents at the table who were used to talking, and the kid wasn't quite ready to get them to stop talking. So some of those work better than others. We've gone back to pre-selecting the hosts. We select either people from Timber Ridge or from the outside community of various ages to do that host job. We also do evaluation forms at every event, and we always ask how they liked it, would they attend again, and did they feel more comfortable with people of a different generation as a result of talking with them over dinner. At each of the 4 events, we've had 90% or more of the attendees turn in their forms, and 95% or more of them respond very positively. So here are some of the comments we've had. I want to give you a chance to look at these. My favorite are the bottom 2 on the right. So you can tell that the bottom 2 on the right were written by the kids, and my most favorite is the bottom one. I can't help design the next one. I'm only 11. So now what? What happens after you do this dinner? Besides having the dinner together and a nice talk, how does this actually make a change? During the April 2024 event, which was focused on our planet, one of the questions on our evaluation form was, would you like to become part of an ongoing intergenerational group that will work together on environmental or climate issues? We had a yes response from 55 out of the 100 participants. And here's what happened next.
Thank you, Carol. So with the planet one, there was a lot of interest around people wanting to, they were advocates for the planet and the environment. So we thought maybe we could drum up some sort of an ambassador or committee that could get together and share ideas and share interests of all different ages about the environment. And so we created what is called the Intergenerational Environmental Ambassador Program. And we partnered with Silver Kite's Arts. And Silver Kite is an organization that bridges generations together through art and various other aspects. And the idea around this was to educate and create outreach programs. We thought maybe we could put together 3 different opportunities for the community where we get different people of all ages put together and go out and do work in the community, maybe help advocate for agendas and bills and legislation. And the ideas were pretty wide. So when we honed down to it, we invited the people that were interested from the dinner, and then we spread the information in our community to see who would be interested here from Timber Ridge. And while Silver Kite put in tremendous amount of work with this, we didn't find there was a ton of interest on our side with the residents for this particular subject, not to mention they're extremely active and busy and involved in a lot of different clubs. So this didn't quite take off the ground, but this was as a result from one of the dinners, and certainly something that we can think about in the future. And then just to wrap up what Timber Ridge does with other organizations, we've got a nice intergenerational program here. Like I said, we work with the Cougar Mountain Middle School. The city of Issaquah has a really robust mentoring program. So several of our residents are mentors. I'm a mentor to a student as well at the school. As soon as the school opened, a couple of our residents started the knitting club. So there's a knitting club at the school with several students in it. And we've got residents that volunteer with the jazz band. We've got a lot of artistic musicians here. Open Window Middle School is a school in Bellevue, and Silver Kite works with them. And they chose Timber Ridge to be the community where they came in to meet and greet and engage with selected residents to create shadow memory boxes. So after spending about 3 visits for an hour and a half, at the end, they create a really nice box full of the memories of what they spoke about, and it's really artistic. And our residents go to the school and they're presented with this box. And the Issaquah High School knew this spring, there's some volunteer students that have started what's called Evergreen Moments. And there's 2 students that took it upon themselves to gather student volunteers and create a program to come in and talk about cognitive activities and programs. And they're going to come in and do a Name That Tune and trivia for us this spring. We love our trivia here. Teens Who Care is another volunteer group of students who come in and teach tech classes once a month. So they'll answer any questions residents have and keep us up to date with the latest. And then I alluded to Silver Kite Community Arts, which is a great partner of ours as well. So we have a lot of great time doing that. And Carol and I really want to thank you for having us. We look forward to questions and answering them if there are any at the end. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carol and Diane, for sharing your wonderful experience with Generations Over Dinner and all the multi-generation connections you've made these past few years. I've been to one of the early dinners, and you did not overstate how great the young people were in taking the lead in conversations and following up afterward. So thanks again. And as Diane just mentioned, please put your questions, comments, and ideas for how we could tackle these kinds of conversations in the chat. Now I'll turn it over to Michael to share his perspective on the National Global Generations Over Dinner movement, and including other ways that he's implemented it for us to consider in our own implementation. So Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks to Encore, and really to Timber Ridge and some of the other partners on this call, like Salsa and San Antonio, who have really taken on this project and developed a real sense of ownership over it, which nothing makes me happier. Just to start, I have a very strange job, and people who often ask, how did it come that you focus on getting people to talk about important things at the dinner table? Surely you're a psychologist or a chef or something like that. And the truth is, I actually have a background in architecture. And for me, this is about designing the type of world we want to live in and understanding the history of what we've created as human and human-centered design. And I realized very early on in my architecture career that I didn't need to build big multi-million-dollar buildings or structures to bring out the best in humans, to connect humans, inspire them, that in fact I could use what is maybe the first architecture or the oldest architecture, which is the dinner table. It's a very remarkable thing we did as humans to decide to create a space to share food, to share culture. It's where language comes from. It's where religion, poetry, so many things have come from this spring bed of the dinner table. It's a great magnet that brings us together for a period of time, and then releases us back into our lives. And I really think it may be the most important technology we've ever created. And I stand that up against AI and some of the other advances. I think of it as the first internet. It really connected early communities together, and connects families together. And one way I think about the table, with optimism, but also some sadness, is that the state of our table, the state of our dinner table, reflects the health of our society. And as it turns out right now, we are not sharing food over family tables. We're not convening as much as we used to. And we have a lot of problems with civil society as a result. So the medicine might be eating together more and having deep, open conversations. And so my last 25 years have been focused entirely on the dinner table as a form for healing, for connection, even for working on geopolitical issues. And I initially started with bringing together world leaders to talk about very hard topics, like ending genocide in our lifetime, like the unhoused, the gender gap, many, many difficult issues. Doing dinners one by one all over the world. And I saw a lot that can shift in a single dinner with major stakeholders. But I have a long history in grassroots organizing, and the idea of just working with grass tops as opposed to grassroots just wasn't sitting right with me. And so I came up with this idea to scale a dinner model, very much inspired by both the Jewish Seder and the Greek Symposium. Said, okay, can we create a topic-based model that people can use all over the world? And unlike certain things, could only get more powerful as it scales. And so we started with an unlikely topic. I was actually considering the topic of Israel and Palestine for my first conversation to scale. And then I realized that that was going to be too hard to make any kind of material progress at a table and tricky. So I decided that death would be an easier topic. Um, and so while I was teaching at the University of Washington, the Graduate School of Communications, I built Death Over Dinner, or Let's Have Dinner and Talk About Death. And that is not a murder mystery experience. That is actually a very enlivening and vulnerable conversation about end of life, preparation, about our own mortality, about terminal diagnosis, about grief, and about really the amazing things that come when we do face our own mortality. There's a lot of life in there. And that idea took off internationally, and it launched about 10 years ago. Um, and there have been now well over 2 million people who have used our Death Over Dinner scripts to convene around the world. There are dinners that still happen every night all over the world. And we're actually turning, and I wrote a book about it, and I just found out it's being optioned to turn into a play with some remarkable folks. So we also then we're like, okay, this works. What else can we talk about? And we did a whole series around addiction called Drugs Over Dinner with the Surgeon General at the time, and climate change, worked with the UN, and mental health over dinner. We're in the process of building, and all of these projects have worked to different level of success. And that's when I met Chip Conley, or kind of re-met Chip. We'd known each other for a while. Chip is the founder of Modern Elder Academy. And for those of you who don't know Modern Elder Academy, Google it, go to a retreat. And I was like, well, not everybody, Modern Elder Academy is a lot about what do we do in the second half of our life? How do we make it the most meaningful, productive it can be? And and a lot of energy focus on intergenerational learning at Modern Elder Academy as well. And so Chip and I decided we were going to take some of the best of the Modern Elder Academy and distribute it for free via Generations Over Dinner. So we launched it to the public with some great success. A lot of people were bringing, several people brought 6 generations to the table. There were dinners happening all over the world. And we did a little bit of work in the enterprise space. LinkedIn and Chevron and Uber were all hosting intergenerational events within their campuses. But it never really took off like Death Over Dinner. I think it's a little bit, there's a challenge in the middle of it of how many generations can you bring to the table? And so what we came upon, like, who are going to be our perfect partners in getting this work out? And Senior Living actually came through a partnership we had with AmeriCorps around their National Day of Service. It's like, where can we host dinners all over the country? And it was like, well, Senior Living has the older generations that are, yearning for connection and to connect with younger people, and also looking for programming, and they serve food. So it was like, okay, there's a perfect storm brewing here. And so we started working with Senior Living, and that's really where the lifeblood of Generation Over Dinner is. And now it's like third or fourth year since its launch. We partnered with Sunrise Senior Living, which has well over 300 locations around the country, and now Ultimate Care Management and Timber Ridge. And we're in at least 500 senior living locations every month, where there are one to multiple dinners being hosted. So, and the results are very similar to what our friends at Timber Ridge have been finding. A great desire to connect, meaningful to have these conversations, the younger generation learning about how to have civil dialogue, how to talk about difficult things, older generation being able to share their wisdom and also learn from the young, which is so important, makes people feel full of life and vitality, to be connected to the younger generations. But it's been immensely successful. There are about 100,000 attendees per year having Generations Over Dinner, and we would love to grow it. And so I'm glad that we're chatting, and maybe some great things will come from that. There's a lot of work happening in San Antonio. One of our partners is on the call. So thrilled that it's getting out there more. There's still, even though we're 3 years in, I have this beginner's mind about it, that we haven't cracked the code on how to scale this, and it's still out there because we all know we're suffering from a loneliness epidemic, and we all know that we're suffering from deep polarization in our society. We don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. And sometimes it's not just about talking about politics, but talking about the things we have in common, and then maybe eventually talking about politics. And to that point, and Jim mentioned it, I started working with Van Jones, who many people know from CNN, incredible leader, who came to me and said, Michael, I have this dream of healing the divide, the growing divide between Black and Jewish leaders. And I could say much more about that, but we're limited in time. But can we heal the divide between Black and Jewish leaders and save democracy, and reduce polarization in the process? And I was like, man, that's a brilliant idea, a hard one, but why don't we start at the dinner table? So we launched this last July, Exodus Over Dinner, and we have convened over 500 Black and Jewish leaders, folks like Gayle King and Daniel Lubetsky and Sherry Redstone, and the list goes, Anthony Anderson, the list goes on, to have some of the hardest conversations that I've ever hosted in my life. And it's working. There's healing happening. There are new collaborations that are coming out of this long but tricky history between Black and Jewish leaders, which in many ways co-authored historically the democracy that we all enjoy. So that's where I'm focused right now, and thrilled to be here.
Michael, thank you. Your movement building work over the years is incredibly impressive, and we appreciate the impact you're continuing to make. You've given us a lot of ideas to consider for our own implementation, and we invite the audience to share your ideas in the chat, and as well as your questions and comments. Before we get to them, I want to just quickly go over a guide that we have prepared called Creating Intergenerational Allies, a guide to facilitating conversations, building trust, and inspiring action. And for us, the great work that Janine Vanderberg has done over the years with ageism and sharing her wisdom and experience, and our co-founder, Doug Dixon, of the Encore Network, his work, as well as adapting the guide that we did a few years ago. We've got a tool, a resource that our audience can leverage. So, Aaron, if you could just put up the slide.
It's already up, Jim. Can you
Yeah,
see?
yeah, I've got it. Thanks. I'm just going to take a minute just to go through the table of contents, and we've heard some real practical how-tos from Timber Ridge and other perspectives from Michael. This is our customized version of this for the Encore Network. So there's a a module, short description of how to get started, how to plan the conversation, how to invite participants. Diane gave us a number of good ideas for what Timber Ridge has done. Getting an invitation out. What do you do before the conversation? How do you manage? How do you support the conversation? Building trust is absolutely critical. Possible follow-up actions, because we want this to be more than a conversation. We want to take action on topics that everybody's really interested in those groups. And what happens after the conversation. And we've provided some resources, including a TED Talk from our own Ellen Hurst Spence that she did not too long ago on this topic. So you, if you're a member of the Encore Network, you can find this in our in the Encore Network website. So now what we'd like to do is hear from you, and Doug and Clint, any ideas that have come up, any questions, comments that people are making? Doug, did you want to pick one?
Yes, am I on mute?
No, you're good.
You can hear
Okay,
me.
thank you. Yes, one person asked about, and I think this is aimed at Diane and Carol, asked about whether they have considered table co-hosts. So rather than one host having an older person and a younger person act as co-hosts.
We have not considered that, but thank you for the suggestion. We'll look at possibly doing that at our next event.
Another question is how to reach out to local partners, and this I think is aimed at Michael, and because someone said that they saw that the University of Denver was involved. She is a alum, I think she said, of the University of Denver. She didn't know about this, and she's wondering if there is a way for us to find in our local communities organizations that are involved in Generations Over Dinner and how to connect with them.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, Doug. I believe the University of Denver hosted a few dinners early on in the launch, including one dinner that had 6 generations at the table, that's happened a few times, and I think that's as many as you can get at a dinner table. With who's alive on the planet. And so pretty extraordinary. I as far as whether they are still hosting, there are only a few organizations like Timber Ridge, like Salsa in San Antonio, Sunrise Senior Living, Ultimate Care Management, and a couple others that have continued to host ongoing programming, ongoing Generations Over Dinner programming. So it's not, people are always like, how do I find a dinner? And the reality is you create one. And that, or you are part of an organization that has the ability to, and the desire to programmatically host the initiative. And like Timber Ridge has found great use with our scripts that are online and free, and there's several scripts there that have everything you need to host your own dinner. When we work with an organization like Sunrise or Ultimate Care Management, who has multiple locations and they're hosting dozens of events, we end up creating a licensing agreement to build specific playbook for their organization, and monthly scripts that change based upon what that organization and those residents really want to talk about. So we're not as widespread across the country on a regular basis where it's easy to just pop into a dinner. We didn't quite hit that critical mass, like kind of like we did with Death Over Dinner. But again, still early, and there's still lots of blue sky ahead. But to the point of finding local partners, there are lots of youth-based organizations like Timber Ridge, I think, can speak to this as well. Youth-based organizations like, and also, kind of young adult organizations into young professional organizations like AmeriCorps, and the Boys and Girls Club that we've partnered with. We've partnered with a lot of different organizations that are really looking for the opportunity to offer something programmatically like this to their constituents. So it's different per every, not every chapter of a national organization is as active as the next. And so it really is a city by city or community by community, situation.
And I think that's the point that Carol made and Diane in terms of the partnerships that they developed, right, in order to be able to create the kind of representation around the table that they were looking for. Jim,
Yeah,
there's another.
Doug,
Yep.
I have a question if I can.
Yes.
This is for everybody. Do you have youth involved in the design process? Both Michael, in your Uber work, and Carol and Diane on the ground?
So I could speak to that a little bit. I think what you're asking is, did we involve youth in designing our dinner and helping at it?
Yep.
Okay. We didn't have much youth help in creating and helping at the dinner. We talked to the school and the teachers about it and got it in there, but we didn't. It was all so canned and structured that we just kind of went for it. And then we had our resident volunteers help on the night of.
Actually, some of the youth do help the night of too. When Eve was our co-MC, she also helped with registration and greeted the people that she knew. And yeah, that's, I think, really the only involvement we had in the design. Like Diane said, it's a ready to go product. I mean, you basically download your script and go for it. So we didn't have much design.
Jim, some other questions. One from John says, does the guide that the Encore Network has put together or any other resource provide materials that could be used to enlist local senior facilities in doing intergenerational dinners? Our guide does not. It just suggests building partnerships and making connections with local community organizations to the extent that they can help round out the representation. I don't know, Michael, do you have any thoughts about how people can connect or enlist local senior facilities? I think you've addressed that, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the reality is that the majority of senior living, residential communities are understaffed, and actually a lot of them struggle financially. There's many that do just fine, and many that are thriving, but one has to realize that there's the majority of senior centers and senior living are just trying to get by with basic services, and are looking for plug and play programs. But there are, that being said, there are many thriving senior communities and senior living residential organizations that would love something like this, but just that we haven't spent that much time or energy doing outreach, quite frankly. The folks that have come to us heard about us and knocked on our door, because we're a nonprofit. We're not you know, a programmatic sales team that's going out trying to sell these initiatives. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in the space, but you know, just that note of the reality of the industry right now as well.
Monica is wondering if there's a cost to organizations to get access to the scripts that you've mentioned.
There are scripts that are available online for free. generationsoverdinner.com, or maybe it's .org. I should know this. It's .com. You can go there and click plan a dinner, and you have access to scripts and hosting guide, and videos. There's quite a bit there that's free. Now, if people want develop a deeper relationship and want customized scripts, then we do have a licensing arrangement that we've created.
There are some interesting references to additional resources that we'll include in a follow-up email that'll come out probably later this week. One is from an organization in Colorado called Aging Dynamics. We'll include that. Also something from AmeriCorps, involving AmeriCorps seniors, foster grandparents, RSVP, and so on, all good resources, and help making connections.
Doug, I'd like to jump in for a moment or six. And this has been a really good conversation, and it's focused on the dinner idea, and we're not getting a lot of ideas in the chat. And so I'd just like to share a few things that are going on within the Encore Network, or we're considering, that are another opportunity to get together with different generations. One of them is Barbara Shaman, who's on this call, and her Champions of Caring organization. She's piloting now intergenerational conversations with university and high school students, and with people from older generations, and they meet over a succession of about 5 conversations initially to get to know each other and talk about social justice topics that they want to tackle together. Helen Hirsch Spence is very involved at the college level every month, meeting with people, as is Betsy Worley. We've come across someone recently who had an article in Next Avenue called How the Aging Together Project Tackles Ageism. And what this initiative is, it's a pilot of people from silent and baby boomer generations who meet and talk about what it's like to grow old. And there's a university professor of social work and gerontology who's started this. And we're going to meet with him to talk about extending this work to other generations. So if anybody has any reaction to any of those ideas, please put them in the chat. Having said that, Doug or Clint, other comments or questions in the chat that you'd like to highlight?
I think we've covered a lot.
Okay. So Doug, this is perhaps a good time to turn it over to you to talk about what's coming up.
Great, thank you, Jim, and thanks to Michael and to Carol and to Diane for sharing their experience with Generations Over Dinner. Our focus is on ageism, not on a number of the other topics that we could be talking about, but have chosen to focus on ageism for the reason that that's our mission. So we hope that you will go to the website, download the new guide, and take a look at the opportunities that we've created in terms of a conversation around ending ageism as it relates to older adults, younger adults, and others who face this challenge in our society. Aaron, if you want to load up the slides, we are happy to have all of you with us. If you're not already members of the Encore Network, we welcome you to join the network. And to create an incentive for that, we are offering a special discount between now and the end of the day next Monday. If you join between now and then, you get a 10% discount by using the code event special. Just go to the website, click the join button, and you'll see the opportunity to put in event special as the code. We hope you'll join us if you haven't already. Some events coming up. We have on Thursday of this week something that we are calling Member Exchange. It's an opportunity for you to talk to each other in real time, not through the chat. So this is a chance to get to know the people whose faces are on the screen today. If you would like to get better connected to peers who are like-minded and share your passion for the prospects of older adults in our society, please join this group and sign up on our website, encorenetwork.org/event-list. We also have coming up a workshop called Demystifying AI for the Job Search Process. And this, I think, would be of particular interest to coaches, advisors, and others who provide support services to older adults who are engaged in the job search process. That process is being changed enormously by AI tools. And this is a chance to catch up, to learn, to take advantage of the knowledge that others have gained and are willing to share. Amy Avergun and Jillian Leithman will be leading that workshop Tuesday, April 22nd. So a chance to dig in and learn more about a process that may seem a bit challenging and overwhelming, but is entirely accessible, and this is your chance to learn. We also have an event coming up on the 30th of April called Kickstart Retirement. And this is a coffee chat all about a new tool that's been developed by a designer whose parents and grandparents faced this struggle in the process of transitioning into their retirements. And she's got a very interesting tool that she's developed. And this is a chance to learn more about how that works and how it can be integrated into the work that each of us does. And then later in mid-May, we're going to be doing a program on how AI is enabling older founders and solopreneurs in launching and building their businesses. So more about that to come. We have, as many of you know, a number of affinity groups. This program today was sponsored by the Intergenerational Affinity Group. We're proud of the work that they're doing. But these are action-oriented groups that get together once a month, typically, to do a variety of things, including the Advocacy Affinity Group, which is currently planning a social media and earned media outreach campaign called Flip the Script. And this is going to be coinciding with Older Americans Month, which happens in the month of May in the U.S. This is not U.S. limited. Anybody anywhere can do it. But we'll be providing a lot of tools, a lot of messaging, a lot of graphics, a lot of the things that you would need to implement this in the context of your own work. So more to come on that. Stay tuned. Finally, I want to just mention our peer consulting program, which provides an opportunity for anyone to identify an idea, a concern, an issue that you're facing in your work. Bring that to the Encore Network, and we'll assemble a panel. We have several ways of doing this, but typically assemble a panel of peers to help you think through that issue or idea. Easy to do. Go to our website and find peer consulting. on the drop-down menu under Events and take it from there. So with that, we want to thank all of you for joining us today for this important work. We'll be following up with an email later in the week, and you'll have access to the recording of today's program, to all of the information and resources that have been mentioned, including the guide to facilitating intergenerational conversations. And we hope you'll take us up on that opportunity and let us know how it goes. We look forward to hearing from you and seeing you at future programs. Thanks and have a wonderful day.